Yeah, see, there I am. And there's me on a fox hunt with my infamous brown floppy hat. So my theme is saving money, having fun, and not getting blistered rashes. That actually is a significant part of the presentation. Some fox hunts are very vehicle-oriented, which is a very American thing, as I've learned over the past year. In other countries, fox hunting is much more athletic. People are running, they're getting bloody bramble wounds. It's almost entirely a sport. So poison ivy, we're in the White Rock area, we're a bit more European with our refined illnesses and injuries. So traditionally, if you've ever heard me on TechNet or another Dallas Amateur Radio Club net, I am an antenna experimenter, not necessarily the smartest antenna expert, but I love talking about them and I love playing with them and I love building them, put them up, take them down. And I love birds. I talk about birds, I look at birds, I rescue wild birds, I volunteer at a rehabber. So how do I combine all my hobbies? Well, this turned out to work. I've been hearing about fox hunting for years, but then just under a year ago in November, one of our club members at the White Rock Lake Amateur Radio Club decided that it would be fun if he'd start building radio foxes and hiding them around the White Rock Lake area in East Dallas. This turned out to be a blast because it's my favorite park in the universe. I love spending time out there, and I can, oh, beep, 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 there's the fox. Oh, look, a butterfly. Great combination of hobbies. And this was the picture of the first fox I had found. He'd programmed it to turn off at night, but it didn't work, which was good because I have this headlight that's actually a bicycle headlight. And if you've seen the headlights serious cyclists have, it's really something. So I actually had no trouble searching the forest and, hey, look, there's a fox. Now, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but you'll notice the antenna on this radio is orange now. As you change antennas, grass, twigs, you'll never see a black antenna again. I have lost one in an area smaller than the space between this tables and the wall. You'll never find it again. So, orange, pink, green, bright colored antennas now. So fox hunting is also called bunny hunting or transmitter hunting. Somebody hides a transmitter, you find it, that's the basic core of it. Typically we use 2 meter and 70 centimeter amateur radios, so most of us already have most of the equipment we need. We are starting to do European and Asian style fox hunting in the White Rock area. And for that I have a Chinese special. There's a little ferrite rod in here with a coil of wire around it. You put on the headphones, and of course broadside, like an old warship from the 1600s, it receives a strong signal. From the end, it receives virtually nothing. So you can kind of hunt it, and as you're running through it, you're kind of constantly turning the end. 80 meter fox hunting is really neat. Of course, 70 centimeter radio waves will bounce off of anything, including us. They're so small. To an 80 meter radio wave, this crowd of people does not exist. There are very few stray reflections and false signals. So it's hard to hear, and you do get running through the brambles, but it's really unique because unless you see like an entire fenced-in football field, there's very few stray signals. And again, some clubs do very vehicle-oriented hunts, some do entire counties in White Rock. We may make it accessible. If you have accessibility limits and you let us know we're coming, we'll make sure it's reachable from the trail, a paved trail, but it's not going to be reachable just by car. We've never done it that way. You will have to get out and enjoy nature, sorry. So radio orienteering or fox soaring is what they call it in Europe. It's the more athletic form. I think I've covered that. I think I've covered this slide too. I can combine all of my hobbies, and I can be social. As you can tell from the fact that I'm here, I don't mind meeting people. When I'm out there in the park with something weird like this, did you lose your drone? Are you looking for an eagle, or what kind of wildlife are you looking for? Because really, that is a very common way that they track wildlife, right? They're out here with their Yagis. I mean, the newest tags have GPS, but there's still a lot of radio collars that they hunt with an antenna that looks just like this one. And then I get a chance to give out a business card or a flyer. I actually recommend that even if you're a beginner, and even if this is your only fox hunting equipment, you carry something with you that you can give out because you have a chance to recruit new halves. So what do you need to get started? A lot less than I thought. That's part of why I didn't get into fox hunting for years. I imagined I had to have that and a UHF Yagi and probably a field strength meter. Nope. For most of the 11 months I've been fox hunting, for at least 8 of them, this was my gear. Now, you can have, it's fun. You'll see a few marks up here. It is fun to keep track of your bearings and the notice, because all the foxes turned out to be along this creek here. Keep track of, was I right? Was I wrong? Kind of builds your skill that way. But you don't even have to keep notes. You don't even have to be a ham. You can buy a used scanner at a ham fester on eBay. There's no reason you're going to transmit during a fox hunt. In fact, if you do, you can damage your equipment. I'll talk about that later. So you don't even need to be a ham. Now, there is a little caveat to that. A Baofeng will not work. A radio that does not have a working signal strength meter will just waste your time. In a lot of those cheap Chinese radios, there's a little thing that looks like an S meter, but it just comes on or goes off. That's when the fox is really far away, that kind of works. You can get a bearing, but you'll never find it. Ideally, it should have an attenuator built into the radio. Most of the Yaesu handy-talkies do have a 20 dB attenuator in them. I bet there are others that do. You may never have used it. I do a lot of public service events in downtown Dallas, so I'd been using the attenuator for years to keep pagers from making my radio make awful noises. So experiment. And again, an antenna that is not black. And I strongly recommend changing your connectors to a BNC connector. You'll be changing antennas or taking them off frequently. SMAs are fiddly and little. I found that a BNC is just the best for fox hunting. All my radios have these little brass adapters on them now. Comfort and safety items. In fact, I don't even think I took the bug spray out of that bag, so it's also my fox hunting bag. Bug spray, sunscreen, water, spare batteries, Band-Aids, soap and washcloth or alcohol wipes. If you do get poison ivy on you, cleaning it off immediately is actually very effective. There are water fountains in the park. If you have soap and a washcloth, off comes the poison ivy. A good breakfast. At least in the White Rock area, you'll be driving past a ton of restaurants. They all smell good. If you haven't eaten before you go, you're going to stop. Optional equipment. The first thing that's optional that you'll add to your kit is one of these. This actually isn't much more directional than the technique I'll show you in a second, but it does let you start hunting from much further away. You can stand up on a hill and get a good sense of, oh, it's over that way, even when you can't hear the fox on the omnidirectional antenna that's mounted on your car. Practically nobody has a directional antenna on their car. But this is probably the first thing you'll add. You'll notice it's made out of PVC and an old tape measure. Often you can get tape measures for free at places like Harbor Freight if you buy something else. A couple tips: grind off or sand the ends. You don't want to cut yourself. As you pull tape measure out to make the elements, don't count on the lock on your free tape measure to hold it. Wrap some tape or something around the tape, otherwise it goes and goes right back in. So 2 tips for making these. Otherwise, every design for these on the internet is all copied from one guy, a silent key. I think he was called WB2HOL. They're all the same. They all work fairly well. And again, put a BNC connector on it. Dual band satellite antennas, those arrows, if you have one, they work great. Their only problem is they're hard to get in and out of vehicles with quickly. You kind of either have to put it together or be careful or you'll snap the elements. More optional equipment. The thing that I was most surprised to learn is that weak signals are actually much easier to find. Our foxes at White Rock range from 1 watt to 15 milliwatts. I usually start by finding the weakest one first, because it's easy. You hear it or you don't, and you can walk right up to it. The loud ones, you can have the antenna off your radio trying to find it from 200 meters away. A 1 watt UHF fox. Strong foxes echo off of things. I have found swing sets. I have found the fences around porta potties. I have gotten trapped between 2 office buildings and I couldn't figure which way was stronger. Weaker signals are actually easier. Now, there's 2 kinds of attenuators to make your signal weaker. And where's the other one? Ah, yes. The one you swear at and the one you swear by. The most common attenuator people start with looks something like this. It's a shielded box, and it may have toggle switches, it may have buttons. It says you can add 20 dB, 20 dB, so that's 60, that's 70, that's 75 dB of attenuation, of which everything but about the first 30 dB is a lie. Because, and I mean, it really does, if you put a VNA on either side of this, it really does have that much attenuation, but the joint where your connector connects to it is never perfect. If you're holding the radio in your hand, we're made of salt water, we conduct electricity. This radio has a magnesium chassis. It's actually meant to couple to your hands, so that if you hold it up like this, your arm is a counterpoise. Signal gets in. It's very hard to get enough attenuation, especially, again, you're hunting a 1-watt Fox, you're trying to get close to it. You're using the techniques I'll show you in a second to try to tell what direction it's in, and you can't because it's equally strong everywhere. So the kind I strongly recommend is what's called an active attenuator. These we just built as a kit in the Dallas Amateur Radio Club, but they're from KC90N. KC90N sells them. He does do group sales and club discounts, so if you want to build some. I want to show you this circuit board. No matter how much of a beginner you are, you can do this. This is a 30-minute project. This is a 3D printable box that if any club member has a 3D printer, they can print for you. Free design on. Cheapest possible connectors from Amazon and just speaker wire for the connections. I don't care about efficiency. I don't want efficiency. I want attenuation. I want it weaker. What this does is, one of its components is this little crystal here, tiny little crystal, 4 megahertz. So if the Fox is on 146.565, which is one of the most common Fox hunting frequencies, it will mix, there's a simple, cheap little diode. So you get all these spurs, 142, 138, 134, and they're all weaker. So you can tune your radio to a different frequency. It doesn't matter then how much leaks in because you're not listening on the original frequency. And then you just turn this knob to make it stronger or weaker. And my knob fell off in transit, oh well. But you just turn this to make the signal as strong or weak as you want. You can, and I have repeatedly, we have a little white paper tag, as you saw in that first picture, and then the actual transmitter is usually hanging up in the tree. My problem is with this attenuator, I usually find the hidden transmitter itself and then have to go look around for the paper tag. That's how accurate you can be with this box. With all the parts on it and a $3 donation we made to pay for the room went, these kits still only cost $20. It's the best $20 you'll spend in fox hunting. There are other things too, mapping software to keep track of hot and cold with automatic GPS. Krakens and other things where you put 5 or 6 or 8 antennas on the roof of your car and it automatically finds the direction. Homemade Dopplers, homemade Adcock antenna pairs where the signal has a beat or a whistle in it until you're pointing directly at it. All that stuff is cool and faster, but not essential. If you're beginning, especially if you're beginning for less than $100, because I was just using stuff I already had, you don't need that. And maybe it's great for the urban stuff, but for in the park, I want to have as little equipment as I can get away with. So what's the process of fox hunting like? Well, first, learn about it. What day or time is it on? What are the rules? Is it going to be only in a park, only on private property, only on the grounds of a church, only on public property, always at a fire station? I've actually encountered all those things. Frequency, transmission types. FM, AM, CW, or CW superimposed on AM. Power, 1 watt is a lot. There are fox hunts that use hundreds of watts, 6-meter ones out on the West Coast, and then they gradually turn the power down as the hunters get closer, but you might be starting on a mountain peak in California with a big 6-meter beam. See if you can find pictures of past hunts so you know what you're looking for. If you don't know what you're looking for, it's very hard to know if you found it. Now you set up your equipment, program the fundamental, and for 2-meter foxes, always program in also that frequency times 3. That's a quick way to get more attenuation. Always program in for a 2-meter fox that frequency times 3. Set up scanning or dual watch if your radio supports that. Again, test your antennas. Try to find your club's repeater. Well, again, we'll talk about the techniques. Try to find your club's repeater. If you can't find the repeater and can't get a bearing on that, you should probably not go fox hunting yet. Test your connector, test your attenuator, charge your batteries. In the summer, I learned that I sweat and my hands get so salty that I will short this battery with the palm of my hand. I will trip its short circuit protection and the radio will turn off. So I learned that in hot weather, I have to tape my handy-talkies if I'm going to carry them in my hand and be fox hunting. Print out maps if you want to keep notes. So unless the fox hunt area, we're going to start the process now and talk about technique. Unless the area is very small, start in your vehicle or in a bicycle or a scooter. Start in something self-propelled. Drive the hunt area and listen for a hot spot, somewhere where you can hear the fox at all. Try to judge by ear. Don't watch the signal meter unless you have a passenger or a driver. Otherwise, you'll become an example to others. Try to, if there are several foxes out, try to listen for several of them or have your radio scan. I have found one fox will looking for another. I have, in fact, accidentally walked past one fox while looking for another. Oh, hey, what's that? That doesn't belong here. Keep your eyes on the road. Listen for odd crunching noises in your radio, because when you're very close, of course, you get overload. If there are several foxes out, you could be listening for one, but then you hear this. You've driven right past another one. So you've gotten in a good spot and you're going to take your first bearing. How do you take a bearing? 3 ways. If you have one of these and the signal is very faint, you'll have to listen for the maximum. You've got it connected to your handy-talkie. You're looking at the S-meter because you've gotten out of your car now and you're standing in the park. We'll talk about good places in a second. You're going to just listen for where it's strongest. And it's these things have about a 45, 60, it's a pretty wide beam width, so it's never going to be exact. But okay, it's that way. If it's a little stronger and you're having a hard time getting a bearing, this kind of antenna has a great null on the back of it, really sharp. So just, it disappears. Now you can be pretty sure it's within about 15 degrees plus or minus of where the null is. The null is much narrower on these than the maximum is, much narrower. Now, if you don't have one of these yet and you're just using your handy-talkie, and this is always what I do when I'm getting close anyway, the body null, we're bags of salt water. We block VHF and UHF radio waves. Hold it like this. I'll usually hold the squelch open by holding the button. When the fox starts transmitting, you see me looking like a nerd because I'm just standing there spinning in circles. You get a sense, you might get more than one null, but there's usually one that's really deep. Oh, it's that way. It disappeared. With the body null technique, the max is almost useless. It's just the null that you're looking for. A final way, if the fox is vertically polarized, which most of them are, if you point the antenna directly at the fox, you get a null. I like the body null better, but a lot of people, you'll see them just doing this, waiting for it to disappear. So that's all the technique you need to get a bearing. If you can hear it, you don't need anything fancy, you don't need a protractor, you don't need a map. You'll see me spinning like this so often. It's just the core of it. So now take your second bearing. If the fox is back there at that rear door, I generally don't drive or hike directly at it. I will walk kind of towards it off to one side. I know I'm out of the camera field view, but I've gone about 45 degrees. Now I'm going to take another bearing. Does it still appear to be where I thought it was? That will give me kind of a general, not an exact triangulation, because these antennas aren't accurate enough and our body's not accurate enough, but a general sense of where it is. Where's the battlefield going to be? Where's the action area? Where's the tornado, If I can't, or if the bearing makes no sense, you may want to take a third spot, or you may just have to head towards it and see if it gets better. So go roughly where those bearings come together, especially if you know the rules for your fox hunt. If it's always in a park, look for the green area on Google Maps that seems to be where those bearings come together and go there. It may not be the right park, there's a lot of parks in most cities, but you'll be closer and it's pretty easy to get a good bearing in a park, and plus no one looks at you too funny if you stand there. If you do this on private property, a lot of times the security guards will assume you're up to something. So should you drive or should you walk? This is an important decision. Did I make a slide about that? Yes. It's fastest to drive as much as you can, but of course it's harder. You can sometimes get a sense of where things are. You go over a hill and it gets much stronger. That tells you it's on the other side of the hill. But it's hard to get a good sense of direction where you're driving in most cases. Most of us have omni antennas on our vehicles. It's also safest, don't cross a highway on foot. Get back in your car. Don't become an example to others. Most Foxes, even the little 15 milliwatters, are very, very strong when you're close. Most of us don't spend a whole lot of time transmitting to other people in the same room because, hi, we don't have to. But if you try it, you'll see that as low as your radio can go, we'll still peg the meter of everybody else in this room. If it's not pegging the meter on your radio, especially on the rig in your car, you can probably drive closer. Let it get really strong. If it's time to go on foot, do bring a smile, some business cards. Try not to take too much gear, all this pile of stuff. I'll show off some of it more later. You don't need it. Especially if you have to go into the woods, this is not necessarily your friend. These active attenuators work just as well with a little whip like this. Because you'll hit a point where you can't get a bearing, even with the antenna off the radio. Well, move off 4 megahertz, go back to using your attenuator, do your circle, and you'll get a bearing again. This attenuator is your friend, and you can use it with any antenna, even a whip. You could also be in the wrong place. Maybe one of your bearings was bad. If it's just doesn't make any sense, give up. The most helpful thing I've ever said on a fox hunt was, "This is just stupid. I quit. I'm going somewhere else." I'd learned something. It's not here. A 1-watt UHF Fox. Oh, they're so hard. Echoing off a building, bouncing off the water. I have literally searched the wrong side of White Rock Lake thinking the Fox had to be in this lawn somewhere where there were some trees and things. Nope. So as you get closer, the closing in is the hardest part. The last, depending on the power, half mile, 100 meters, you're on top of it, but you can't see it. It's aggravating. So as you get closer, you had your gain antenna, then you switched to this. You started using the attenuator in your radio to make it weaker. Maybe you started using this. If you don't have one of these, this is now where you switch to the third harmonic, because you'll be turning in a circle, but it's too strong. There's no null anywhere. For a VHF Fox, see if you can hear the third harmonic. Some transmitters are very clean, but some of the cheaper ones, especially when people use Baofangs, have a lot of spurs. They are good third harmonic unintentional transmitters. FCC doesn't like that, but it makes fox hunting easier. They'll have a nice strong signal in the third harmonic you can close in on. Some people will loosen their antenna. No, don't put it on quite as right to create a little gap, a little air gap. Weaken the signal more. It's very hard to understand someone who's screaming in your ear. As you make the signal weaker, it's easier to keep your bearings. Some people will just stick a little paper clip in the center of the BNC or remove the antenna together. Then you have minutes like you're on the third harmonic, your attenuator's on, you've taken the attenuator off, and you still can't get a null. That turned out to be I was standing at the transmitter and somebody had taken the paper tag. But I knew the fox hunter and texted him. It's like, "What did you do here?" And he's like, "Well, you're standing at it." "Well, I'm not." Okay, so again, arg, I still can't see it. That's the last 100 meters is the hardest part when you're beginning. The ability to make the signal weaker with an attenuator is how you save time in the last 100 meters. We've gone over this, I think. Keep taking your bearings, trust your equipment. Sometimes you try to outthink the guy who hid the fox and you're being too clever by half. He would never put it there. Yes, he did. He was in a hurry. He wouldn't stick it on that thing. It's a landmark. Yes, he did. He was busy. So trust your equipment, but beware of re-reflection. If you're sure it's not there, and you keep getting a bearing that leads you back to that swing set, move away. Don't keep taking bearings from the swing, standing by the swing set. It doesn't work. Give up, move on. Giving up is actually hopeful if you know where you're doing it wrong. So drive around, get a bearing, hear the fox. Get a second bearing. If you think it's that way, move off 45 degrees, get a new bearing. Begin to search that target area. Move toward the fox, use a worse antenna, add attenuation, then switch to the third harmonic. Look around you very carefully. Repeat for each fox. Say hi to the other hams you meet as they're also closing in. So extra credit. I like making maps. I really like keeping track of where was it? Where did I think it was? You know, there's a big hill here. The fox actually one of them turned out to be in a park over here, and I got a bearing that was north, but it was so weak. Well, just because there was a hill in the way, it was actually rather close. I love checking my work and seeing, did I find it? How did my bearings work? I will take extra bearings just to see, is my antenna symmetrical? Now that I know where the fox is, could I re-find it again? I found an 80-meter fox using the receiver in my car. Could I find it again with the little Chinese box? You know, why not try it? So, some more techniques. We've done the turning in a circle. I think everyone's got that stuck in their head now. That's the basic technique. Learning when it's a good or bad spot to take a bearing. Sometimes foxes are just in a tough spot, sticking at a water treatment plant in Richardson on a big pile of metal equipment. But ideal, hilltop, beach, open field, adequate, vacant lot, parking lot empty. Most residential neighborhoods, if they're single-family homes, aren't too bad. Full parking lot, no. Strip mall, no. You'll be surprised how many of those things have radio equipment of some kind in them for automatic door openers or whatnot. Industrial sites, fenced athletic fields, what they call an outfield fence, I call a reflector. Under clusters of power lines, long traveling wave antennas, they look like beverages to a radio wave. They're bad spot, attempt no landing here. Don't even, no, just don't, not worth stopping. There was a fox hunt where I found a fox in Richardson, and one of my friends, this happens to be by White Rock Lake, but she was stuck in a park like this in Richardson for 2 hours. She kept getting bearings from all these odd spots in between the outfield fences and the dugouts. Now a fox hunter may be tricky and put it on one side of this park, but to get a good bearing, you have to back up, get away from the fences, take a new bearing. You're not going to find it standing close to all that stuff. For an 80-meter fox, remember I said they don't even see like a crowd of people like us? But these tall poles, grounded on one end, will re-radiate 80 meters. Don't take a bearing standing near one. This was the Irving Municipal Center. Not too bad. There were some light poles, but you can get away over there in the little grass. That didn't work too badly. Oh, that's the swing set I have found more than once on the east side of White Rock Lake. It's fun, you're a grown-up, you can take a break, you can get up the swing set, nobody's gonna, judge you for it. Hey, that was fun. But, oh man, it was just, I kept finding that swing set over and over again. You may encounter, beautiful snake though. Didn't bother me, but be aware. It's fun when I'm in the White Rock Lake Park, you get all the male and female gym bunnies. They've all got their short shorts on and maybe a sports bra if they're female, and they're wearing these lightweight running shoes. And I'm wearing combat boots and long pants and a big broad-brimmed hat and sometimes a long-sleeve shirt. It's because they're on the trail and I'm going in the woods. Sometimes it really is the light pole. He stuck a magnetic fox to the side of that light pole on a fishing dock. I tried to outthink him and think he wouldn't put that there. Yes, he did. That was actually the strongest 15 milliwatt fox I've ever heard. The light was a great antenna. Turtle building her nest. I backed away from her and didn't want to disturb her, but she was digging a hole, getting ready to lay eggs in it. Found an old treehouse. The men who built that treehouse have grandkids now. There was also a really huge poison ivy vine going up on the side of that tree, but it was a great spot to find. There's a lot of cool, really hidden spots in our neighborhoods that we don't know about. It's being the next step, I guess, in my career is I'll have to learn how to hide foxes, because you have to learn all these cool spots to entertain your hunters. Butterflies, you can't see them, but this was a spring. There were just, the flowers seemed to be twitching. There were so many butterflies. Don't do what Donnie Don't does. This is the spillway at right by the dam at White Rock Lake. This is an old state fish hatchery. It's very densely forested because of all the water seeping out of the lake. I was standing here on a trail. I got a very nice bearing up towards the end here. I didn't really want to risk missing it, so instead of walking on the paved trail, I spent 90 minutes going through the brush. Don't do that. I didn't even have a buddy with me, which was a mistake, because while there's people on all those trails, there's nobody in those woods. So if I'd hurt myself, no one was going to hear me scream. That was a mistake. I really learned about.
Already that you could call for help.
Yeah, that is true, but I'd rather just not be in there by myself. Okay, now, last part of my presentation, poison ivy recognition. Now, poison ivy varies a lot. It's a really sneaky plant. This is one of the classic specimens. You have 3 leaves on a vine. There's a little stem, so one leaf sticks out further than the others. They look like mittens. The 2 base leaves have thumbs that kind of point down. The one in the center has 2 thumbs. Classic poison ivy. Now, I have not actually gotten poison ivy at the lake. I wash, I take my clothes off. I don't take that yagi into the woods because the urushiol from poison ivy transfers really well from hard, non-porous surfaces back to our skin. It might stay on your pants, but it's going to come right back off the tape measures. But do be aware of it. Do know that there's a lot of it in this part of the country, wherever there's water. Hairy vine, no friend of mine, a lesser than rind. Poison ivy vines have lots and lots of red-brown roots. It's another sign that you're dealing with poison ivy. They also have what are called alternate leaves. Here's a leaf of 3 coming off, then you go up an inch or so, then there's another leaf of 3 coming off. There are also poor defenseless poison plants here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that look like poison ivy but are not. If the leaves are not alternate but directly opposite each other, it's not poison ivy. There's a really old 2-inch diameter poison ivy vine on a tree. Those are still dangerous even years after they're dead. So again, there's no fox named Itchy and Scratchy. Wear your don't try to look like one of the gym bunnies. Wear your pants, wear your boots, wear socks, bug spray. Even washing hours later helps a lot. Even taking an allergy pill helps a lot. I have only ever gotten little bits of itchy streaks. I've never gotten the big giant blisters that some people get when they don't clean the poison ivy off. Like that. Oh, chiggers, yeah, bug spray. I mentioned DEET, bug spray. So, good resources. Our club fox hider in the White Rock Club tries to keep track of all the fox hunts in the area that he knows of at ntxardf.org. That stands for North Texas Amateur Radio Direct. Oh, there's a pointer here. North Texas Amateur Radio Direction Finding. It's not always correct. Sometimes fox hunts get canceled and he doesn't know about it, but he tries to list all the ones he knows about. Homingin.com, great set of directions. The ARRL has a set of resources, and even the Wikipedia article actually had some decent links in it. So, but anyway, NTXARDF is a local compendium, and you can find links to other clubs like Richardson and Dakara and whatnot that hide foxes. And then homingin.com has more directions on building equipment than you could ever want to know. A couple of visual aids I didn't get to. This is a little UHF antenna. It's hardly directional at all. It's meant for satellite receiving. It has an almost hemispheric maximum, but it has a null. The null is always better than the sharper. A man named John Portune has an entire presentation he gives about how to build these loops. It's an aluminum tube with a piece of coax inside of it to make a capacitor. If you do build these, they do work. They do help you close in because they're not as strong as a Yagi, but they are stronger than the whip on your handy-talkie. He says you can hold it like this and get nulls. You'll get 6 nulls. Body reflection. There's a reason it has a handle. Hold it up like the Statue of Liberty. Keep it clear of other objects or it won't work. Very important. If you do use these, I don't. I just built one so I could tell people about it. Hold it up. Be the Statue of Liberty. Don't get it near other objects. So I think that is it. And thank you.
Thank you, Tony, for coming out.